It's Friday. You know what that means.
Yeah?
It means it's episode 353 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the F and Marks.
I'm Jay. He is.
And the Red Sox are 1-0, baby. Woo!
Yeah?
Boy, does it feel good to be a sports fan for me. The Red Sox actually won on opening day, which I didn't think they were going to get their first win until July 2nd. The Red Wings are in playoff contention. The Magic are in playoff contention. And UConn advanced to the Elite Eight last night.
That's fantastic.
So I'm in a very good mood just because all of that is happening at the same time.
And you know what else? It's Wrestlemania season, baby.
It is also WrestleMania season, and I'm excited for that too. Honest to goodness, what we saw this week, especially on Raw, it was unbelievable. It's
fantastic.
It is such good shit. I do have to ask one question.
Sure.
Before we get into the podcast. I was thinking about this. I've been stewing over this for a couple days this week since I saw it on Twitter. And I had to ask you.
Okay.
Now, it was brought up that when Smash from Demolition downgraded to the Repo Man, that was the greatest downgrade of a wrestler to a different character. And I had to beg to differ, because I thought that Terry Taylor was the first. I get it. The Repo Man was a terrible gimmick.
Yeah.
But my first thought was Terry Taylor. And then somebody had mentioned, they were like, well, look at it this way. Smash from Demolition was a tag team champion and dropped into the Repo Man. I said, fair enough. I mean, the Red Rooster was once Terrence Taylor too. So I understand. But my question to you, Cousin Jay, is what, in your opinion, and to everybody else that's tuning in to the F and Marks podcast, this goes to you as well. I want to hear it. Who do you think is the greatest downgrade from one character, wrestler, or gimmick to another gimmick for said wrestler?
Now, this, I think, ended up being a couple of steps, but John Tenta to the Shark. He changed companies, but he was a big star in WWF. Huge star. And man, oh man, it's like, if you've seen his Dark Side of the Ring, really compelling stuff, seems like a good and decent human being. That, crappy stuff happened. But man, oh man, yeah, I have to go with Earthquake.
I agree with you 100%. It was John Tenta was the name that I thought of. And that's not even, I forgot about Shark. Because I was thinking about all the time, because they brought up a good point. Because yes, Terry Taylor going to the Red Rooster on its own, it's terrible. But it's not like Terry Taylor, I couldn't tell you anything of significance that Terry Taylor has done in his career other than the fact that he used to cluck like a chicken or a rooster in WWE. He used to do the cock-a-doodle-doo, and that was it. And he had red in his hair. Couldn't tell you anything else about the Red Rooster or Terrence Taylor or Terry Taylor.
Everybody always said that he was a good hand and thought that the Red Rooster gimmick was a career killer for him. What I'll have to say for that is he certainly has built his reputation at this point as being a dude behind the scenes who is seemingly done a good job. Otherwise, he would not have maintained employment. He's worked between WCW, TNA, and WWF for many, many years. So Clearly he knows what he's doing. But yes, the Red Rooster is about the biggest downgrade. And at the same time, he ended up feuding with a man who got an upgrade from being Steve Lombardi to the Brooklyn Brawler. So you had Lombardi going from complete jobber status to almost complete jobber status. It was an upgrade, and you got Terry Taylor, going from being a solid hand that everybody seemed to like, down to, like, for a while there, he had like an undefeated streak, but then he went against Mr. Perfect, who had a perfect streak as well. And that ended Terrence Taylor's perfect record. Mr. Perfect also ended the Blue Blazers' perfect record, too.
Wow. But my thinking was with John Tenta was because when he came back after he was the Shark in WCW, he did come back to WWE. Wasn't as great as he was with Earthquake. And then they turned him into Golga and put him in the oddities.
Another one that we are neglecting that's a more recent person on this list, Elias to Ezekiel.
I was just about to ask you, was there one recently? Because I couldn't think of it off of the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, that one would certainly be it. Clearly, Elias did a great job of connecting with the audience, and for whatever reason, Vince did not like something about what was going on, so wanted him to change up his character, even though he was hot as heck in front of the crowd. And then by the time that he went back to Elias, Vince was seemingly out of control, at that moment. And, Elias did not have a great run when he was down in NXT. And I'm guessing in part that he and Triple H may have not seen eye to eye because, as you've stated many times in the show, when Elias was in that Royal Rumble after he came back as Elias, he was out in 26 seconds and the commentators just crapped on him. So, yeah, that was a big fall from grace going from Elias to Ezekiel. And you know what? To his credit, he tried to make it work. Just like when the intellectual savior of the masses ended up making Mizdow work. And Chris Brown also mentioning Lacey Evans. She never changed her name. She certainly changed her gimmick, but I guess the gimmick of getting pregnant was what ended up demoting her the most.
Honestly, though, when they dropped the sassy Southern Belle gimmick from her, she just wasn't the same. And they were like, "Oh, let's try this GI Joe thing," and she could be like Sergeant Slaughter. And then he got all upset because, you're trademarking. That was me. I was the guy with the hat and all that stuff. And then it just turned into a giant mess. Yeah. I just think that after they dropped the Southern Belle gimmick, she was done with. There was nothing else they could have done with her.
Sure.
But the Elias, that was the one that I couldn't think of from recently, but you hit the nail right in the head.
But with a Lacey, so the thing about getting pregnant, like Becky Lynch has been doing the rounds with doing interviews for her new memoir that's coming out, and she said she was scared to death to tell Vince about her pregnancy. I mean, to me, that just kind of gives you at least a little bit of a view of the inner workings of that company, that it's like, should be something that should be a celebrated moment, and you're unsure if your boss, even though he reacted correctly, you weren't sure whether or not you were going to get demoted, fired, or stuff of the sort. Like, again, that just speaks to kind of the stuff behind the scenes. She said that, like, hey, he always was good to me. But one person that isn't mincing words is Ronda Rousey. Whether it be about Vince or about Johnny Ace. Which has opened up other cans of worms like Teddy Long.
Charlotte Flair took out her dick at WrestleMania 39 to make sure that she got enough time in her match with Rhea Ripley. The sad part is, I'm like, I can actually vision that for some weird reason. Like Charlotte Flair just going in there and just like whipping I'm fighting for as long as I want with Rhea Ripley. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Woo!
Yeah.
I am the daughter of the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing, 16-time world heavyweight champion, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. But that just goes to show you, because we've said this, that this is the shit that Charlotte does. This one, I'm actually glad that Ronda Rousey opened her mouth for. Everything else that has come out of her mouth, she's not burning her bridge back to WWE. No. She's well beyond that. She napalmed that shit. She's never coming back. She's not getting in the Hall of Fame. That is funny, because of the fact that it's the whole, unless, TKO does their shit and they like, oh, you got to put Ronda right. No, we don't want her in. What the hell did she do? Yeah, so what? She won the Raw Women's Championship. Yeah, so what if she was part of the women's main event at WrestleMania 35? What did she do? Did she do anything of substance that stood out in her entire run? Anything.
So one thing Becky brought up in her memoir was Ronda had that great first match.
Yep.
And it was a tag match. But she was in there with seasoned pros. Even though Stephanie McMahon, is not like a weekly was never really a weekly performer in the ring. At any point, she had been around the wrestling business and knew psychology and could handle herself in the ring. But you had her, Kurt Angle, and Triple H, an absolute wealth of wrestling knowledge that could hide her deficiencies and accentuate the things that really were good with what she could do. And, Becky kind of made it sound like after that, almost like the WWE failed Ronda, because they're like, oh, she knows it, she's good. And like Ronda still needed training wheels. And they said, just go. But Ronda has come out and said, I wish my last run was under Triple H. I feel it would have been a better experience. And maybe she actually would have tried, because, as you know, she was just there. She was there for a paycheck.
I know. I'm pretty sure one of these past Marquee Awards we did, she got my worst wrestler of the year. It wouldn't surprise me. She looked, like you said, she looked good in that debut. I was ready to see it. If they didn't want to send her down to NXT like they should have, because that's where Rena Shafir, Jessamine Duke, Shayna Baszler were all down in NXT. These are all her people. These are people who would have helped her. It would have helped her advance. It would have helped her get better in the ring. So it's not like, I mean, yes, we see examples of it, of like, even over time, you don't get better in the ring, Marina Shafir.
Right.
But I mean, look at Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler gets it. Shayna Baszler had the proper training. Granted, she was out wrestling in, the Indies and, over in Europe and all those places, before she got to WWE. So I give her the benefit of the doubt, but she learned it.
Yeah.
She was in UFC. She figured it out. So I just don't see how they couldn't just do that with Ronda. I don't care how big of a name she was. She was a bigger name before Holly Holm knocked her out.
What I'll say for that is they could have done something similar to what they're doing with Jade Cargill right now. If you don't feel she's quite ready in the ring, you don't need to put her on TV in NXT, but have her learn behind the scenes before you make a decision. Jade Cargill has had a contract signed with WWE for, about 7-8 months at this point. And, we've seen her a couple of times on TV. We finally found out that she is signed to SmackDown. I'm going to guess if they have sort of a women's battle royal for WrestleMania that ends up showing up on SmackDown, that we're going to get Jade Cargill and she's going to win that on SmackDown. Otherwise, she'll debut right after WrestleMania.
Honestly, there's 4 open spots left. They have 8 days to fill 4. If they're really talking about 7 and 7 for both nights, there's 10 official matches. And I've heard there is a mystery slot. Yep, I have that on there too. I wanted to kind of put on the old tinfoil hat for that one.
I've got a whole bunch of tinfoil hats, but we'll certainly get into that. But the stuff with Ronda, the stuff with Becky. Becky actually came out this week said that her current contract is up in 2 months. 2 months, and said more or less she is not scared of anything, coming at her, which tells me she's either re-signing or has made her decision of I'm stepping away for a while. I'm sorry, she's not stepping away. She's going to re-sign.
I wouldn't be surprised if she took off like 6 months or a year just to be mom and then come back and be ready for WrestleMania 41. I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibilities, especially because the reason people are speculating is because her and Seth's contracts are both up pretty soon if they're not at the same time.
And McIntyre.
And McIntyre, because he's already put it out there.
All three of them super prominently featured in this WrestleMania card, which again makes this card even more unpredictable because, like, are they re-signing? Have they re-signed? The fact that we don't know this makes it even more like,
right.
Quite literally, in the World Heavyweight Championship match, you have two people whose contracts are up in like 2 months.
But there's one caveat to all of that, Cousin Jay. Because lying in the weeds is a man holding a purple briefcase, and he represents
Money in the Bank.
Representing the spooky pals. If they've been talking about it, Rhea Ripley has been mentioning it. They said he has like a less. Earlier this week it was 100 days, so it's got to be a less than 100 days he has till he has to cash it.
Yep.
I hate it when they do these prolonged, long, drained out freaking cash-ins. I'd rather have somebody cash in the night they win than have it draw out until 11 months like Edge did. Or Carmella when they basically had to force her because they didn't know what else to do. Oh, I'll just have her beat Charlotte twice.
Yeah.
For no reason whatsoever. But that does add a lot of intrigue. And on top of it, we did find out on Monday Night Raw when the Second City Saint came out there and he talked to the fans and he got the pop he always has. And they asked him what he was going to do for WrestleMania and all the ideas and everything. And then, McIntyre comes out, Seth comes out, and they ask him what he's going to do. Is he going to referee? And now he's going to be doing the play-by-play with McAfee and Cole for WrestleMania for that match. There is so many different tentacles that are just... There is so much intrigue with every match. I don't remember a WrestleMania like this that was this properly promoted. And I know people are saying, they're like, oh, you got to give Bayley more respect because she was the Women's Royal Rumble winner. It's unfortunate that her timing just wasn't right because you have all these other incredible storylines, going on, and that her thing with Io Sky and Damage Control is kind of flying under the radar, which is unfortunate.
It's a really good story, but unfortunately, all these other ones are just like incredibly compelling. Yeah. And Bayley did say in an interview, hey, why can't women main event both nights of WrestleMania? And to that I say, I'm okay. If they have a great storyline for the women to have the main event both nights. This year is not the year, but Bayley was specifically saying, why couldn't it be this year? Because guess what? Her storyline is really good.
It is.
But it is not to the level of the Bloodline and Cody and Seth and Drew. It just isn't. And it's not just because perception. It's like, no, those storylines are what people are tuning in for. Quite literally, when CM Punk and Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins had their segment on Raw, I think they gained 500,000 viewers, which is more than like Rampage gets.
In Collision. Almost combined. Oh.
So, as much as I hear Bayley, and if there is a year where they have the two most compelling storylines being women's, a woman's storyline, I'm cool with that. Completely cool with that. Last year, when they didn't have Rhea and Charlotte main event night one, I thought it was completely justified. I thought the build to their story sucked.
Yeah.
They tried to make Charlotte a face. The crowd was not buying it. I wasn't buying it. But I knew they were going to put on one of the best matches. You knew they were going to put on one of the best matches, but the story build sucked.
And with saying that, think about that. This is what we're saying when we're talking about people with AEW and how AEW is booked. Where they're like, oh, you don't need stories to have wrestling matches. You're right, you don't, if you're an alternative. But you guys want to be the competition. For me, as a wrestling fan, it's not even just about the wrestling itself. It's about the story. How did we get here? Because, yes, Brett and Owen had a great match to start off WrestleMania 10. However, if it wasn't for all of the shit that built up towards that, that match wouldn't have been anything other than two brothers wrestling each other. That's it.
And you had the stuff building up even before Survivor Series with Brett and Owen. But that was kind of the thing that lit the match,
lit
the fuse, where Owen was the only one eliminated of the Hart family at Survivor Series. And then the stuff that happened in the Royal Rumble. And then didn't they have a match for the tag team championships and they lost it? And then because Brett had an injured leg, and then Brett later on went out and won the Rumble match, or tied for the win in the Rumble match with Luger.
That sounds about right.
And Owen was like, what the hell, man? You more or less quit on this match because your leg was hurting, and then you go out there and are able to perform enough to win on your own. And the thing that was brilliant about that booking was when Brett ended up winning at WrestleMania, you had his opponent waiting in the wings because that opponent beat him at WrestleMania.
Yep.
Which ended up being the main event of SummerSlam that year.
Yep.
And they had that great cage match.
Yep. It's all about the story. Because you can have all the wrestling matches you want. That's fine. I can have all the wrestling matches I want too. It's called a video game where there's no storylines. You just wrestle. I need a story. I need background to it. I need Hulk Hogan standing on Piper's pit as Andre ripped the cross off of his neck.
You're bleeding, Hulk. You're bleeding.
I needed the Python biting Randy Savage in the ring. I needed the whole thing. I needed Shawn Michaels to watch Marty Jannetty throw himself through the barbershop window. You need a story.
With like Ultimate Warrior versus Randy Savage in the career versus career match, not only was it career versus career, but we had the returning Miss Elizabeth. To this day, when I watch that match and when I get to that ending, I get goosebumps that like Miss Elizabeth bringing him back to the good side. Like,
what about WrestleMania 4 in the main event when Andre was trying to help DiBiase win the title and Miss Elizabeth ran backstage and grabbed the Hulkster?
And the Hulkster cheated like the good heel that he is.
Well, that's because he's the greatest face and heel of all time. Let's be serious.
And ended up hitting DiBiase in the back with the chair.
To be fair, though, that's called fair play because Andre was messing with Randy Savage the entire match. And we all know how Andre the Giant felt about Randy Savage.
Right.
Hated him because he wanted to wear all the baby oil.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing. You can't just, especially this year, I understand where Bayley's gripe is because there's all those great stories going into WrestleMania.
And
any other year
is a great story.
It's
not above what we're getting with The Rock, Cody, Seth, and Roman. It just isn't. And add Drew into the mix. and add CM Punk into the mix. Sorry, no.
Think about how stacked this card is, and there's still 4 more. Oh, excuse me. There's still 4 more matches that needs to be announced. You have the tag team match, the main event's night 1. You have the main event of night 2 being Cody versus Roman. That's either going to be, even Stevens, or it's going to be Tribal Conquest.
It's going to be Tribal Combat.
Oh yeah, it's going to be Tribal. It's going to be Tribal Combat, absolutely. But then you got Seth and Drew, you got Rhea and Becky, you got Io Sky and Bayley.
And by the way, Becky wants to be the curtain jerker of night 1. She wants to set the bar. Sorry, Rob.
Did I do it right? Yeah, there it is.
There we go. She wants to set the bar and say, follow that.
Oh my God! You know how many matches could be the curtain jerk? I was actually looking at the card, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "This is a great WrestleMania card."
You know what this means for me? It means that we're going to get 2 heavyweight championship matches on night 2 for the men's division, which means I'm getting Walter on night 1.
You're gonna get the Gunther and Sami Zayn. That's another one. You got Gunther and Sami Zayn. You got AJ Styles versus L.A. Knight. Yeah. You got Jimmy Uso versus Jay Uso.
Yep.
Are you kidding me?
Kim thinks that Jimmy and Jay is going to be the night 1 opener. I wouldn't be upset about that. I wouldn't be upset if they're night 2 opener.
They should start one of the 2 nights. I'd love for you. I'd love for them to be night 1s. Or I'm for you. There's so much I want for you to have at WrestleMania. I want you to have the LA Knight AJ Styles match if you can't get the Usos against each other in night 1 to start it off.
I will not be disappointed whatever matches we get, because again, there is nothing on this card right now where I'm like, oh yeah, this is a pee break. There's nothing on the card where I'm like,
Just remember,
I'm great with all of them.
Just remember, ladies and gentlemen, Cousin Jay, when he goes to WrestleMania, his major champions are Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Whereas when I went to WrestleMania 29 years ago, my world heavyweight champion was the Diesel.
I mean, Jenny McCarthy and Pam Anderson were there, so I mean
that didn't make up for the fact that we had to. And it's not even.
And Danny Reagan was there.
And yes, he was. Was he? I thought it was Nick.
I thought that was WrestleMania 11.
No, we had
WrestleMania 14.
We had Nick Turturro.
Okay.
We had Nick Turturro. We had Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I don't know why the fuck he was there. That was just weird and awkward with him being there. He had, you could tell he didn't watch wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they put him in a segment with Bob Backlund.
Mr. Bob Backlund, who ran for president. Oh, by the way, very sad this week, RFK Jr. did not select WWE Hall of Famer Jesse Ventura to be his running mate. Very sad.
And even sadder, he did not pick, for the sake of the Jets, he did not pick Aaron Rodgers either. So obviously,
and he didn't pick the Brainless one.
I wasn't up for consideration. It's because I tried. I said I would love to be your VP. Number one, we both have the same first name. Number two, we both have the same middle name.
Yeah.
So we could just prove that. We could just tell everybody that 2 Robert Francises are better than 1.
Yeah, I mean RFK, RFG.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
but that's fine. The Green Party lives on. I'm sorry. The Marx Party lives on. Guy Rule 2024. Make America brainless again. Don't forget to vote. 100 votes for the brainless one in November means I'd get a whole waxing of the front of the whole front chest, stomach waxed. 100 votes.
Right, well, I mean, you've got my vote. Either we get the dementia patient or the lunatic, who happens to be a WWE Hall of Famer, who may or may not show up at WrestleMania.
I'm gonna tell you right now, if Donald Trump shows up at WrestleMania 40, I'm not voting for myself.
Okay.
I'm voting for literally anyone else.
Literally.
Literally.
All right.
Oh, that was good shit. Now you did mention Jade Cargill, and she is going to be appearing on SmackDown tonight. So do you think they're going to do the Mae Young or the formerly? No, it was the Fabulous Moolah, the former Fabulous Moolah Women's Battle Royal tonight, and Jade's just going to win that? Or
if she has a match tonight, it is going to be Ryback quality. It's going to be like somebody getting destroyed in like a minute or so.
I know what I want. I know what I want for her debut tonight. I want her to come out. She doesn't have to wrestle. She just has to come out. She has to cut a promo, and she's like, you know what? This is my time to tell you. I will be making my in-ring one-on-one solo match debut at WrestleMania. Point at the sign, and she's gonna be like, I'm gonna issue an open challenge. Great. This is what I want. So that she shows up at WrestleMania, night 1 or 2, it don't matter, with all the pomp and circumstance. And she's going to say, all right, you got your time to accept my open challenge. You had 8 days. Who's going to accept my challenge? And Nia Jax comes out. And I want Nia Jax to go out there and say, this is bullshit. Why do you think you deserve this match? Blah, 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 blah. And then Jade Cargill squashes her in 20 seconds. That's what I want.
Idea. I love that idea. It's better than the idea I had of like bring somebody like Mickie James in to be a surprise. Somebody who I would think most of the crowd still knows and still has some respect for. You know, her husband works for WWE.
She does.
And at this point in her career, I know Mickie James is like, hey, I got to build up the next generation of women's wrestlers. And having Jade Cargill beat her, whether it's squash or otherwise, I'm game for. Is Jade Cargill this year's version of like Omos versus Lesnar, where we're making her a feature piece that you might not see every week on TV, but when you see them, you're like, you take notice.
No, I get that, and obviously Jade Cargill would benefit getting the rub from Mickie James if she were to wrestle somebody like a Mickie James, or if they brought somehow, some way Beth Phoenix, even though her, Adam Edge works for AEW now. Or if they brought, Beth Phoenix or brought in Michelle McCool or, somebody, Molly Holly, somebody who can get in the ring with Jade Cargill and give her that rub for getting the victory over, Jade getting the victory over them. But it's got to be Nia Jax. I'm sorry.
No,
it makes too much sense.
That's the right call, because wasn't she the one that eliminated Nia in the Rumble?
I believe it was. And, Nia Jax has been doing everything she can to kind of just like force herself into the Women's World Championship match. I mean, all she has to do is exist, and she forces herself onto people. So, but, she's not going to get in this match. She's going to be pissed. So this is, I don't know. Somebody called WWE and tell them I should be part of creative. This is actually a good idea. Because she's been sitting there. She's been beating up Becky. She's been beating up Liv Morgan. She's been going after Rhea Ripley. And she doesn't have a match at WrestleMania. She's a former, women's champion. She won at WrestleMania. Nobody deserves to get humbled and squashed more at WrestleMania next weekend than Nia Jax. And if you really want to have a statement win for Jade Cargill, you're not going to do anything better than that.
Jeff in the chat said, what about Lita? I mean, at this point, like, I would be more on board with Trish going against Jade, but even so, it doesn't feel like that's a good fit. At the end of Trish's last run, I mean, she was a heel, and Trish is more legendary than Lita is, in my view.
The only other thing I could think of that they could do with Jade that would make any sense is if they did the thing where, especially because of Asuka, is Asuka hurt, or is Asuka?
Asuka has been cleared to get back into the ring.
So let's say they don't
which, by the way, very good news. She is part of the women's tag team champions. And when she fell down, like when we were doing the show last week, I'm like, damn, it looked bad.
Yeah.
The way that like she went down and the way that she was reacting, I'm like, But she has been cleared for in-ring competition again. It's slightly possible we may get a women's tag team match, but I'm going to say probably not because it hasn't been prominently featured lately.
But maybe that's what they were waiting for, because this whole thing with Damage Control, because you got the women's tag team champions and you got Dakota Kai. I know she just came back from injury. And they've been kind of doing this thing where they're feuding with Naomi, and they're kind of messing with Bianca. They don't really have much of anything going, and you're going to leave Bianca Belair off of the card,
right?
Why don't you put the two of them with Jade Cargill and have them go up against Damage Control? If your concern is Jade Cargill's not properly trained and she's got enough to go through the basics, where she can either win a 20-second squash match against Nia Jax, or if she can have her flaws kind of hidden when she's competing with two of the... I mean, Bianca Belair is one of the top performers in the women's division, period. But Naomi, where they can kind of like hide, her deficiencies in the ring, and she could just kind of do like a small assortment and get the win.
Sure.
But I mean, I want the Nia Jax squash. I want that.
I actually love that idea. And Tim has put a couple of things in chat. Naomi and Jade versus the Kabuki Warriors, or Bianca, Jade, and Naomi versus Damage Control.
Because that's really like the one ace in your hole, that and whatever the hell they're going to do with the Mysterios. Those are really your two, like, almost kind of set in stone of who's going to be wrestling at WrestleMania. And it's WrestleMania 40, and they keep touting it as the biggest WrestleMania of all time. So my guess is they're going to get like a hologram of Eddie to be in the corner of both Ray and Dominic.
So with to me, it seems like a fast forward in like, what the heck? They should have had Santos Escobar and Dom, or I'm sorry, Santos Escobar and Ray at WrestleMania. That's what it seemed like they were building towards. And there have been whispers, even though Ray recently signed a new multi-year deal, that maybe this is Rey Mysterio's like kind of swan song as a full-time performer, and that's why they're maybe rushing another Dominic versus Ray match for this year's WrestleMania. They had a great match last year. I have no doubt they would have another great match this year, but like, the dude just signed a new deal, and like, I would think you would want to like build that storyline more, as much as you could say, well, this storyline's been going since birth. I mean, you could kind of say that, but as far as being storylines that they've actually built on TV, this is not something that they built a lot.
Right.
This is something that happened like last week. I wish they would take more time and care. If a legend like Rey Mysterio says, all right, I'm about to hang up my full-time boots.
Right. See,
all that being said, I have to mention this. WWE is doing the Slammy Awards. They're bringing them back. And one of the categories is Best Entrance. And one of the entrances on that list, everybody else just has whatever their entrance is, whether it's Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. On this list, clearly it's the one that they want. It's the one I want. Dominic Mysterio's entrance at WrestleMania 39.
Is this the greatest entrance of WrestleMania history? Or just all time, like just greatest entrances?
Greatest entrance in the last year.
Oh, greatest entrance in the last year?
Yeah. Dominic Mysterio should win that for the fact that he was brought in handcuffs. And they played that whole thing up. Dirty Dom, the man who spent a night in jail.
He spent as much time in jail as my dog spent at the Portsmouth Humane Society before I adopted her.
Yeah.
But she did hard times, like Dusty Road. Hard times. But I can't think of anything that's like in the last year. No, that entrance was ridiculous. Although that entrance that The Rock had on Monday, where he came out with all the freaking,
yeah,
that gives it a run for his money. But just the mask wearing, everything, because it really did look like it was funny. I don't know how I can explain this. But when Dom came out with the mask at WrestleMania, for whatever reason, he looked like a South Park adult character when he wore the mask. I don't know why it stuck out like that to me, but that's what it looked like. It just looked like Rey Mysterio in a bigger body. That too.
Yeah.
It looks like Rey Mysterio poured he ate Popeye spinach before the mask. But instead of getting stronger, he just got taller.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was epic. That was really epic. And I'm glad that we're talking about WrestleManias because it is WrestleMania season. Cousin Jay, did you know that two very, very, very important WrestleManias happened on this day years ago?
Yeah, which ones?
Well, the first one, I'll give you a hint. In the main event of the first one that happened over 30 years ago, a man wearing yellow underwear body slammed a 700-pound behemoth, thusly killing said individual 9 days later from the slam and tearing every ligament in his back. We also got the most underrated match in Dave Meltzer's ratings history with the Macho Man Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat. 37 years ago, WrestleMania 3. And then 11 years later, on this day, I also see clearly,
Pain!
We got Shawn Michaels getting knocked the fuck out by Mike Tyson in the main event, or after the main event, technically. We also
got Pete Rose being one of the greatest heels of all time. Eviscerating the Boston audience. Kane went. This was a greater heel to face turn, face to heel turn than anything the Big Show has ever done in his life. Kane went from being the greatest face in all of Boston to the greatest heel within a matter of moments.
Jay, I could safely tell you right now, if we don't count Dan Malloy, I can safely tell you that in my lifetime, I have only wanted to stick my arms through the TV and strangle somebody as they were talking nonsense. So if I take Dan Malloy out of the equation, I'd say maybe a couple handfuls of time without using all my fingers. But when Pete Rose was cutting that promo on Boston, those were hurtful words.
Yes.
I could tell you, I don't know why I can tell you this, but those words were very hurtful. And it was the first time in my life I actually wanted to see Kane plant somebody into the... I actually cheered. I popped. I'm talking Carlito returning in WWE WrestleMania Backlash in Puerto Rico last year popped when Kane came out to just bury literally Pete Rose, who's in the Hall of Fame over Cyndi Lauper.
Not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Fame.
Yes, because to Vince McMahon, it'd be funny to have, Pete Rose in the WWE Hall of Fame when he knows he can't get into the... I'm sorry, the dastardly Voldemort himself. But it's crazy that if you think about it, two of the most iconic WrestleManias, because you had the Hogan. That was really, Hulkamania really started at Madison Square Garden, but that was the single biggest moment in WrestleMania history. I can't think of another moment that was bigger than Hogan slamming the Giant. We're not sitting here having this conversation if Hulk Hogan didn't slam 900-pound Andre the Giant and killed him 3 hours later. Tore every ligament in his entire body, had to spend 6 months in an iron lung, and still defended the WWF Championship against the Iron Sheik.
You are doing a better job than Nigel McGuinness.
For what? Telling a Hulk Hogan still alive?
Andre was 700 pounds a couple of minutes ago. Now he's close to 900.
I'm sorry, I wasn't
250-pounder Morrow.
Not many.
He's over 275 pounds, Morrow. He's over 300 pounds, Morrow.
Not many 300
pounders. Gained 70 pounds plus in one match.
Oh no!
One match.
He must have been eating under the ring, I'm telling you. But I wasn't really channeling my inner Nigel McGuinness. I was just channeling my inner Hulk Hogan because I could just... Brother. He just exaggerates. And then, if you think about it, WrestleMania 14, that was, yes, him winning the King of the Ring and cutting the Austin 316 promo and everything like that, the double turn with Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13, that was Steve Austin's WrestleMania moment at WrestleMania 14. And he is the biggest star of the hottest, generation of wrestling, the biggest draw. I think he's the biggest draw. Money.
For a small period of time. Yes, if you're comparing it to Hogan or Cena, who were on top for
longer periods of time. I don't think as a whole entity, as the big main attraction, doesn't matter how long, I don't think anybody was a bigger star than Stone Cold Steve Austin during that period of the Attitude Era. I take that back. Mine is Bruno Sammartino. Because Bruno Sammartino was the guy that everybody knew, but not everybody could see. Oh, so he's kind of like John Cena.
John Cena.
Yeah. But I really do think Steve Austin was the biggest draw in wrestling history because he was the biggest star at the hottest period and rightfully so. Hulk Hogan, yes. Hulk Hogan did a lot for wrestling. I will agree with that. Hulk Hogan did a lot for wrestling because without Hulk Hogan, none of this is happening. Because you needed somebody to be the global phenomenon, and that was Hulk Hogan. Because you were taking your vitamins and saying your prayers, ripping them, and that's who the kids grew up idolizing was Hulk Hogan. Granted, yes, that's the beautiful part about being wrestling fans is that you got your Hulkamaniacs, And then you got your Ultimate Warriors, the Little Warriors from the planets of above.
Assume the controls. Okay.
That's when they should have brought in Rick James to the WWE so he can, at the end of every promo, cocaine is a hell of a drug. Just ask Tony Khan.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. That's just my opinion with Steve Austin. And I'm glad that we mentioned Steve Austin. Because did we see foreshadowing on Monday night?
When we ended up seeing both the man you can't see and the Texas rattlesnake on a ginormous 18-wheeler trailer in the background, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say that we may see both of those individuals possibly show up night two of WrestleMania during the tribal combat match. Oh, by the way, this is not a prediction. This is a spoiler. The Rock and Roman win in night one.
Oh, absolutely. I would say that's my lock, but I got a feeling Rhea Ripley's going to beat Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
Just because we all know Rhea Ripley's locked up long term and she's the champion and they're going to want her for a lot of. She's going to have a Roman type run, I think. I can't see anybody beating her. She's numero uno in the women's division, in my opinion.
But I mean, there are several ways they could book it for night two. I would love if Rock was continuing to be a heel and helping his cousin, that in the midst of him helping his cousin, the glass shatters in Philadelphia and Stone Cold Steve Austin beats the hell out of The Rock. The Rock eats another stunner and gets himself another 30 rack of beer because he sold the stunner in the most ridiculous way possible.
I want him to sell the stunner so good that all he does is flip all the way out of the ring and somehow lands on the Rocky statue. I mean, we're talking Shawn Michaels SummerSlam 05 selling from The Rock here. That's what I want.
I would rather see that than see The Rock turn against the tribal chief. By the way, with how much it rained here yesterday, do you believe that Roman Reigns was in this area to wet his hair?
No, there was plenty of rain the day before from Florida.
Okay.
So
I'm just saying, we got 4 inches of rain here in southeastern Virginia, and I'm wondering if just to get the hair a little bit wetter, maybe he took a plane from Florida after getting rained on down there, came up to southeast Virginia, took an extra 4 inches of water onto his flowing mane to be ready for when he makes that trek up to the city of brotherly love that threw snowballs at Santa.
There it is. That's how you can get away with not having to need Steve Austin or Cena in the main event. Just let Philadelphia fans be Philadelphia fans. Because eventually The Rock's going to piss them off to a point where they're going to start whipping snowballs at him. They'll be the concession stand snowballs, but snowballs nonetheless.
That's fine.
These are the people who threw snowballs at Santa Claus. You don't think they're going to go after The Rock? Come on.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with like Rey Mysterio retiring at the link, what do you think you are? Freaking Michael Irvin? Speaking of cocaine, Michael Irvin. There's not a player in NFL history I hated more than Michael Irvin, and it's not even close.
All right.
Tom Brady would have to punch me in the face to make me even consider hating him more than I hated Michael Irvin. But then again, I also like Tom Brady now, so
Okay.
I am at peace with the Brady.
So we've danced around it a little bit, but let's get into WWE Monday Night Raw.
And I will tell you this, it did not suck.
No, Baron Corbin was not the general manager. He was not in his Olive Garden waiter outfit.
He wasn't bringing out breadsticks and soup.
He was not. Quite honestly, I am of two feelings of this Monday Night Raw. It was fantastic. Made me super hyped to see what's going to come next. But, a big but, the matches that they made me want to see aren't happening. After what I saw on Monday, I wanted to see Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, and I wanted to see Cody Rhodes versus The Rock in one-on-one matches. We're not getting either of those. We're not getting CM Punk versus anybody anytime soon in a one-on-one match.
SummerSlam.
As long as they re-sign Drew, and I think they will. And I want to see Cody versus The Rock. We're going to get moments of that in night one. But one of the things out there was we have seen more of The Rock this year than we've seen more than of Roman Reigns. Quite honestly, I mean, part of this is the charisma and electricity from The Rock. And Roman Reigns has been ruling the roost for 3+ years. He's taken a back seat. Now, if the whole goal of this is to take Cody Rhodes into that next level of stardom, the fact, hey, you know what? Part of the gimmick right now for The Rock is he's the final boss. What they did on Monday makes complete sense. The final boss beats the crap out of you the first time through. Are you going to overcome getting your ass handed to you? And that was part of The Rock fulfilling his promise that he was going to have Cody Rhodes' blood on his belt to give to Mama Rhodes at WrestleMania. It could be also in part of a ginormous ruse because as The Rock was beating the hell out of him, that is when all of a sudden he started bleeding. Is this all a ploy of The Rock, and we see his true colors shine through at WrestleMania? Does Stone Cold Steve Austin come out? Either way, what they've got me interested in is a match with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk and a match with The Rock and Cody Rhodes, neither of which we will see anytime soon. But I still love the episode and still love those segments.
Jay, I'd have to really go back and look at a lot of notes, and I really don't. I didn't get the call into Cooperstown quick enough to retrieve the old Brainless thoughts notebook. But I did something during the back end of this show that in 352 previous episodes, I don't think I've ever done. Spoiler alert, Raw
Wait.
will be mentioned at the end of the show during a specific moment that has never happened in the history of this podcast.
Certainly not since Baron Corbin was the GM.
Yes, especially not when Baron Corbin was handing out breadsticks.
Yeah.
But I agree. This was great. I loved everything they did. It was edgy. It was different. It was giving it that. And the fact that, Drew McIntyre mentioned I was once the chosen one. And CM Punk was like, yeah, who was it that called you the chosen one? Go ahead. Say his name if you got the balls. And then he just deflected from it. Called him a bunch of what was
even Drew's line about hey, you don't drink, you don't do drugs, but you've been in rehab more than anybody else I know. That was a great line. Drew McIntyre, I would say on social media is the greatest troll to CM Punk of all time. He literally has done his homework and looked at every moment of everything that he said, specifically in the AEW realm, and re-brought it out so that people like you and I can when he says these things hey, look at what Drew's doing. Look at what Drew's doing. And even to the fans that aren't wise to what he's saying, they're still oh no, okay, that pretty good. Pretty good.
I love
the fly, Drew is not on the league of CM Punk. But when you see him with his stuff on social media, Drew McIntyre is top level at this point, and he did not do badly on Monday. He's just not as quick on his feet as Punk is.
Punk is the closest we've gotten to Roddy Piper. Punk is just he's one of those rare talents. His only thing was that he didn't have the body that could withstand being a big time competitor. Like Vince said, I like to have the 300-pounders, and I get it. Because CM Punk would have been a bigger star if he wasn't always getting hurt. And he's been getting hurt a lot lately. But he's one of the greatest performers. I enjoyed his work, all of his work. He's a 5-tool guy. And you get to see it. He's a draw. AEW's biggest draw. The only wrestler to lead both AEW and WWE shops and T-shirt sales at the same time.
Right.
So I enjoyed it. Drew has been killing it. Absolutely been killing it. His work, he deserves, honest to goodness, if anybody deserves to win the title at WrestleMania, he deserves it. Because he's just doing incredible work. This is his best run.
Yes.
And it's great. Because I love the fact that they're still putting these little pockets of stuff that they could do later on. Because eventually CM Punk's going to get healthy. And eventually Drew McIntyre, whether he takes time to spend with family before he resigns, he's going to resign. Because why would he want to go over to AEW? So he can wrestle
so
once.
He could be in front of a half to 3/4 empty arena.
And it's what are you going to do over there? Look what they've done with Wardlow. You want to go over there? Drew, are you good? Do you play Tiddlywinks with Kenny and the Bucks? Do you play hide and seek with Hangman Page? Do you exchange Christmas cards with any of the elite? Because if you're not part of their little circle jerk with Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho, sorry, pal, you're not going to be doing shit. Why don't you go ask Rusev how it is over at AEW? What have they done with Powerhouse?
Oh, by the way, he's in Bulgaria right now.
Oh, and what have they done with Powerhouse Hobbs? A guy that I had expectations as a breakout star for AEW. Take a shit. But we'll give Okada. That's 2 thumbs up for Eddie Kingston. Thank you. Yes.
Yes. Look at the fireworks.
Edward Moore, baby.
You know what? I'm not going to see those on night 1, but they'll happen on night 2 when Cody goes full Homelander. Still one of my favorite lines by a professional wrestler in the last year. It's you are Homelander.
We've been saying it for years. He's finally
Yes.
embracing the fact that he is Homelander.
He's Homelander.
That's probably his little way that he's going to turn heel, because I don't know what it is. I got this weird, crazy suspicion that he is going to turn heel right after he wins the title, or not too long after he wins the title. Even though he is their biggest baby face right now, and they've been promoting him as the biggest baby face, and he's doing all the great stuff. He's their John Cena right now.
I pitched the idea of him winning the title and going the heel route, saying, my dad didn't win the title because he didn't do what was necessary. We've had Roman Reigns, the heel champion, the heel face of the company for 3+ years. As much as in my heart, I really want to see Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns do the double switch on night 2. It doesn't feel like that's the right trajectory.
Right.
I think Cody's going to continue being a face and going to win on night 2. Spoiler alert for my predictions for next week. I think Cody is going to end up, winning the title and not doing the heel turn. I would like him to do it at some point. Whether or not, does he lose the title at SummerSlam and realize, like, hey, I need to be dirtier than I've ever been. I've tried to keep my nose clean, but if I want to live out this dream, this nightmare, per se, I need to be different. I don't need to kiss babies. I don't need to, be the best man in a wedding that of people I've never met. And I don't need to go to the children's hospital. I need to just care about myself. We will see that Cody Rhodes, I think, at some point.
And he'll be putting paper bags over people's heads again in no time.
I really want to see the Cody Crybabies start to wear paper bags to the arena.
I do too. I need that.
Yes.
I need that. That's all I need. I honestly, I don't want to see it. I get this weird, like, I could see all these crazy things, like with the WWE, like with Cody. Because I could see him definitely winning. I could see him where he has Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. I did not see John Cena on that truck. I've looked at that picture. I've looked at different pictures. I must have seen 27 different pictures. I did not see a John Cena on that truck. All I saw was a picture of Steve Austin.
Somebody you can't possibly see in a Texas rattlesnake show up,
I
come out of nowhere, and help out if the bloodline is so overwhelming. You got Seth Rollins there that's going to help out, even if he loses earlier in the night to Drew McIntyre. And you get a legend like Stone Cold, you get a whole bunch of people, John Cena and other people helping out Cody Rhodes to snuff out the tribal chief. After he has gone through the monsoon that happened in Florida, the monsoon that happened in southeastern Virginia, and I'm going to say very likely in the next week, the monsoon that will happen in southeastern Pennsylvania.
You don't want
He is going to be like a water buffalo.
He's going to be like Ariel coming out of the water in Little Mermaid, where he just comes out and all of his hair is just, all the water comes out.
When Darby Allin shattered the glass upon the audience in Sting's retirement match, it will not compare to the water that will be sprayed across the first 5 rows of the crowd in Lincoln Financial Field. Jason Kelsey will get drunk on Roman Reigns' wet hair.
All I'm gonna say is WWE dropped the ball. Because if that was the case, Roman Reigns should have been at Monday Night Raw and have been the one to beat the shit out of Cody Rhodes because it was raining. That's why Roman was. That's where the rain came from. Because I don't think rain was in the forecast. Like, we got to get rain. Where's Roman? Just let him shake his head. Ugh.
Wait.
I'm Roman Reigns. It's my hair and it's wet. I've won. I'm the only 8 times Marquee Award winner.
Yeah.
9 times, Roman. It'll be 9 times come December. Don't worry.
As long as you don't shave your head.
As long as you don't shave your head between now and the 9th annual Marquee Awards. Yes, because
By
I
the
would.
way, one of the things that was in the news this week, Paul Heyman alluded to the fact that Roman Reigns, after 2020, when the pandemic started, was considered done, considered retired. To an extent, it sounded like Paul Heyman was like, dude, you should come back. I think I got a idea for us. Heyman didn't say that. I'm implying that. And that's what I believe. Heyman was like, no, dude, you got more in the tank. Don't worry about this COVID thing.
Yeah.
You come back, we're going to do something that changes the industry forever. I'm guessing that that's the way that Paul Heyman pitched it, and that's what's happened. We went from
suffering succotash,
where professional wrestling was on the outskirts, on the fringe, to I know so many people look at the ratings and they try to compare it to what it was 20, 25 years ago. It's not the same. There are people that tune in on Twitter, people that tune in on Instagram, people that watch the YouTube channel. They have more subscribers on social media than the NBA, the MLB, NCAA. Think of any sports venture out there. They have more subscribers on their stuff than any of those. They have sold out, according to what we heard on Monday, the last 11 shows that we've seen on TV. They went to a smaller set so they could have more seats in Chicago.
Yeah, they opened up like 65 seats like right before the show started. Like, we're sold out, but we found a way to open up 65 seats. I'm like, of course you did. Because this is an AEW where there's not going to just be 85 open seats for anybody.
We are not going to have something that says we have an 8.1 rating for This Is Your Life, The Rock. But it will live forever, whatever moments they have, because we have the internet and we have social media. And oh, by the way, after The Rock finished beating Cody Rhodes as the final boss for 5 or 6 minutes, he continued to beat his ass. And we saw that on Instagram that like, oh yeah, the cameras stopped rolling. We're not live anymore. That doesn't mean that the beating is over. He continued to take him on, take him down. It is a different media landscape. Years ago, they said the baseball was dying, right?
Yes, they did.
There are several metrics that you can do to judge whether or not what you're doing is impactful. It's just not who views you on TV these days.
Nope.
When The Rock showed up in the past year in Denver and had his bit, one of the most viewed, I think, either the most viewed or second most viewed thing in the last year on social media.
What did Punk's debut do at, or re-debut at the Survivor Series do? Didn't that pop like 100 million?
I think it was like 76 million, which was still less than what The Rock did when he showed up in Denver. All that being said, people are watching.
Yeah.
And to me, the more accurate gauge of what's going on is butts in seats at the arena.
That's right.
They have sold out 11 shows. Televised shows.
Nope. They sold out.
You know, there was a bit where John Cena said to Stone Cold Steve Austin probably like a decade ago, "Yeah, we're doing good, man." And apparently Stone Cold just kind of looked up into the rafters and said, "Hey, I see empty seats up there." More or less saying like, yeah, you're doing all right, but there shouldn't be empty seats. And right now, you know what we're not seeing? Empty seats on Raw and on SmackDown.
Maybe they should send Steve Austin to all the AEW shows and have him tell that to Tony Khan, so that one of Tony Khan's favorite action figures when he was a child will just dash his dreams like Cody Rhodes did when he went back to WWE. When Cody was like, "I'm done playing. I'm done playing with the mud show wrestlers. I don't want to bleed with the Moxley anymore. I don't want to wrestle Sammy Guevara anymore. I'm going to go back to the big leagues and be a big time star like I belong. Not sit here wrestling guys who have exploding sneakers and stick their fingers up dudes' butts." That's what Cody Rhodes is. And just imagine Steve Austin going in there. Tony, what the fuck is this? What is this, a whole section? That can't be. That has got to be the biggest hard camera if there's all those empty seats. I don't know what you're talking about, Steve. Thanks, Steve. I don't know what you're talking about. Lord.
All right, Chris Brown said, Jay, tell the Brainless one, SmackDown tonight we get Randy and Captain Cupcake versus Pretty Fucking Boring in a tag team match.
Oh, that's such a shame. Didn't
Los,
I want to say when I saw it that Los Lotharios got put in this match for the tag team, ladder match. Like they filled the open spots and it's like it's DXY and it's the Miz and R-Truth and it's the new day. I had the cereal out for a reason.
Yeah.
And they were promoting it.
Bootios.
They make sure you ain't booty.
Yeah.
But and there was like one other tag team, but they had all 6 teams, and I could have sworn Los Lotharios was in there or whatever. Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo, whatever the hell they're calling themselves. Nicole's favorite tag team.
Yes.
They qualified. They're in this match. I mean, I can understand if they were doing like a 6-pack challenge elimination and they needed one team to eat the first pinfall, but there's no reason that they should be in this. Why? Why aren't the Viking Experience in? Oh wait, that's right, Eric Rowe or whatever. The Cleveland guys out. Why aren't
Eric
Otis?
And Ivar.
Why aren't like Otis and Chad Gable or Akira Tozawa? Why aren't one of them in there? I mean, why? Are they only in there so that they can get taken out so they get replaced by Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin?
I'm actually okay with it.
Please, I'm trying to speak it into existence, Cousin Jay. I want to see Motor City Machine Gun in WWE. I don't want them to get wasted in AEW. Because God only knows that once those two go to AEW, that Nikki and Matthew are going to be sitting there and try to see how many times they can beat that dead horse of a match. So we could see 497,000 super kicks. And that's it. It's just super kick and super kick and super kick. And then, you know what? Let's send the Usos. Let's have them reunite and add them to the match. And add Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So it'll just be a super kick fest. And then Shawn Michaels could be referee. So that's all we get is super kicks. Motor City Machine Gun would do so much better in WWE and AEW, and everybody knows it, because they would actually get utilized a little bit better. I know they're a little bit up there because they're in their 40s. But Triple H can find something to do for Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. We don't have to go through like a 19-match series between them and the Bucks to see who the greatest tag team of all time, because we know that the stupid EVPs will put themselves over, and they'll be lying to everybody ever by saying they're the greatest tag team of all time. They are the most overrated tag team of all time. They are the most disgraceful tag team of all time, but they're not the greatest.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see, because it's WrestleMania. There's all craziness. There's so much that could happen this year. It is wide open. I mean, really, Jay, is there really like a guaranteed locked match? I mean, it really does.
Night one. Clearly, Roman and Rock are going to win.
So it's got to be okay. So if we take the fact that Tribal Battle is going to be what the main event is, so we know that main event. Other than that, is there really any Rhea Ripley's definitely going to win, or Gunther's going to win? Do you really? Is there any really clear-cut person who's going to win the LA Knight versus AJ Styles match?
Yeah.
Besides the fans?
Yeah.
That's the match I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Especially after LA Knight showed up at AJ Styles' house, started beating the shit out of him. Not remembering what happened the last time when the greatest seller of Samoan cookies showed up. Oh, Wendy!
Yeah.
Or when Seth Rollins, did the same thing. Was it Edge? I think it was.
Sounds right.
And he got arrested. He got handcuffed and walked off the premises at AJ Styles' house. And it's the house that AJ Styles built. And he showed up there and got arrested after kicking his ass. And I can safely tell you, I have no idea who's going to win that match. Because I can sit there and go, yeah, I think Jericho's going to win. Not Jericho. I can say LA Knight's going to win this match, just like I said about Chris Jericho against Fandango at WrestleMania 29. And then I threw up 3 times in the bathroom. Losing to that dancing fuckhead. I mean, Jesus, where was the Funkasaurus? Yeah. Where was the dancing dinosaur? Somebody better have called his mama to get Brutus Clay at that WrestleMania. Fandango beating Chris Jericho. This is the most disrespectful thing. No, that was the most disrespectful thing they've ever done in wrestling history. That was the greatest overlook and the greatest misbooking in WrestleMania history. I don't care what kind of payday that Chris Jericho got. I don't care. You lost to Fandango and then absolutely nothing happened with him. He got put in a tag team that my wife now hates, or is one of her least favorite tag teams of all time.
That's in files.
And I enjoyed Breezango. Let's be serious. I actually liked Breezango. Tyler Breeze could actually wrestle, and I actually think he's kind of funny.
All right. Tim in the chat said Lashley doesn't have a match again this WrestleMania. Could Lashley do an open challenge? And Braun Breaker answers.
I could see more of them trying to do something stupid where it's him and the Street Profits versus Karrion Kross and the Authors of Pain, so that Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits squashed them in like 3 minutes. So Karrion Kross. I'm sorry, that dude does absolutely nothing for me, but that's the only way you could really book Bobby Lashley instead of him being the first 2-time Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winner of SmackDown before WrestleMania. Is Omos going to be there?
I know you're an Omos sapien.
I want to see Omos. Because not only do we get Omos, the best part about Omos, I mean, I actually like Omos. He's actually a really good dude. Huge fan of his. I've actually enjoyed his work. He's gotten better in the ring. I think he's better than the Great Khali. That's not really saying much. I think he's better than El Gigante. That's not saying
fair,
much. But the
dude is above Great Khali.
Fair. But I'm just saying, like, Omos could actually move for a guy his size. He actually looked halfway decent. For a guy that it can't be that easy to move at 7'4", 7'5". But he flew and he actually looked good and he looked crisp. I know I'm not saying that he's AJ Styles, but he's not the Great Khali. And that fucking piece of shit is a former world heavyweight champion.
If things don't work out for Donovan Klingen, as far as NBA is concerned, I think he could work as a professional wrestler. By the way, if you're wondering who he is the center for the University of Connecticut.
He's been balling this tournament.
I went to, aging myself, I went to school with his mother. My mom!
My mom! The Huskies look good.
They beat the holy hell out of San Diego State.
It's going to be them and Purdue in the finals, I think.
I hope so. That's what my bracket is. That's what I've got left in my bracket.
I'm Mike Golick. I Mike Golick myself this year. I'm in like 12 brackets. I already lost.
Of integrity.
See, I was in one with the family, and there's 9 of us, and I was like, I can't pick UConn to win it all because then I know I'm not going to win because everybody and their brother. Picking. And the funny thing to that is, of the 9 people, the 2 people who did not pick UConn to win were not just everybody and their brother. It was just me and my sister. And both of our championship teams got knocked out.
And the fact that your sister went to UConn, that's very disappointing.
It's because Michelle and I had the same mindset that we're going in there with 6 other UConn fans and somebody who knows better than to pick against UConn. And we were like, no, we're just trying to buck the trend and get lucky.
All right, Chris Brown is saying, nope, Illinois and Purdue in the title game. Wrong. UConn going all the way.
Yeah, UConn's going to win it all.
Yeah?
Especially after what I found out earlier this week. Yeah, they're definitely winning it all. There's no stopping them.
2 in a row, baby. First time since Puke.
Oh, wasn't the last 2-time champion those sons of bitches from Florida? But they're
I thought it was Puke. He's gonna puke. In the early 90s with Leitner and Hurley.
Oh, no. The one with the Florida Gators that Billy Donovan coached that had Joakim Noah. It had, oh, man. That team was stacked. The dude that plays for the
Tim said Gators back-to-back. Yeah.
Al Horford, Joakim Noah. They had some players on that Gators team. Billy Donovan was head coach of the Orlando Magic for 5 days and then said, I can't do it.
Right.
That's what it's like being a fan of my teams, folks. It's not just the Red Sox and the Giants. It's all of them.
Your greatest coach was Jeff Van Gundy's brother.
Stan Van Gundy, who's been calling the UConn games. Him and Bill. Actually, no. Rafferty did the last week's games. It was Van Gundy last night. I don't mind Van Gundy, by the way.
Yeah?
His brother was better, though. But anyway, we got to get back to WrestleMania. We did talk about retirements. Apparently, on NXT this week, Ridge Holland came out and cut a promo saying that he needs to step away for personal reasons and all this, yada, yada, yada. Okay, great, Ridge Holland. Anybody really going to miss Ridge Holland?
Biggie anymore.
And it was funny, too, because, I was watching it, and I'm like, it's so weird. I watched it, and I was trying to register everything that was happening, and I was like, wait. This feels like not a shoot. This feels like a
work.
This feels like a work. Thank you.
He's not Mark Henry.
He just, but no, I wasn't. And it was funny too because I was like, well, where's the salmon jacket? And who's going to come out there? Is it going to be Ilya Dragunov? And they're going to hug and he's going to pick him up and drop him on his head? Because that's what Ridge Holland does.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. It just has a real work vibe to it. I just didn't feel it. I mean, I really hope that's not the case. I mean, there's rumors around that this is part of a storyline, which is terrible. But if he was one of those guys, like, I'm not going to miss him. What has he done in his career? This guy is known as the guy who broke Big E's neck and possibly ended his career. But it's just, it's crazy. Like, this is what you're going to do? I don't see it. Like, nobody, who's going to back this guy? The fans were chanting, thank you, Ridge. What are they going to do in about 3 months when he returns and he drops somebody else on their head and breaks their neck? This isn't rugby, pal. This is WWE. They're not doing ballet. It's bad when you are in the NXT and developmental and they have a lot of high hope and praise for you. And then you make it to the main roster, and then you fuck up majorly. And then you don't get better in the ring. And then they send you back down to the minor leagues, and you suck there too. And you get beat up by freaking Ty Dillinger with 10 chair shots. And then you walk away. And people are hoping it's a shoot and not a work because nobody wants to see you.
X-Pac heat.
I'm sorry. If this really is a story, that's fucking stupid. Nobody wants to see Ridge Holland back. He hasn't done shit. All he did was he took Pete Dunne out of having his first ever WrestleMania match. I don't even think Pete Dunne's even getting a WrestleMania match this year, which is bullshit. They're gonna let freaking Los Lotharios, who hasn't done dick in forever, they're gonna be in the freaking stupid bullshit. This is why I hope Motor City Machine Gun is the surprise tag. Anybody. Even if it's the Dudley Boys, I'd rather see the Dudley Boys in their 50s than have to see Los Lotharios.
Yeah?
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah?
But another thing that did happen on NXT I did want to mention was they did a tag team match with Otis and Tozawa going up against Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker. Match was pretty solid. I mean, Breaker and Baron Corbin are just a tremendous tag team. They have really good chemistry. But there was one point that I really needed to mention. They had a point where Otis had Breaker on his shoulders, and Tozawa was going to jump off the top rope and hit him with the crossbody. And luckily for him, Otis was standing right close to him with Braun Breaker on his shoulders so that he wouldn't miss the crossbody. You know, something that primetime Brian Lee would have done.
Yes.
And when Tozawa jumped off the top rope and hit Breaker, and he reversed it into a slam off the shoulders. Jay, I am not telling you this because I'm just blowing smoke up your ass. That kid is going to be a huge star for them for a very, very long time. That kid is a blue chipper if I've ever seen one. He gets the business. He understands the psychology. He has developed the character. He keeps getting better and better in the ring. I am more and more impressed with him every time I see him. He is a freakish athlete. He's fast.
And he understands the math of it all.
And he understands the math of it, and he's strong. The kid is... There's no way you can fuck this up. Vince McMahon, maybe. Tony Khan, absolutely. Eric Bischoff probably book him the best of anybody. But this kid's the real deal. Like I said, I am more and more impressed. And I know that he's getting a lot more reps down in NXT because, A, him and Baron Corbin are the tag team champions. But B, it's WrestleMania season, so there's not really much for him to do. And unless you're going to have him, have a big marquee debut match at WrestleMania, you're not going to do anything with him until after. And it's going to be great because him and Carmelo Hayes are going to be full-time on the main roster right after Stand and Deliver next week.
Yeah?
My God, I cannot believe how deep and healthy, not like without injury, but like deep and healthy the roster is on the main roster.
Right.
It is insane. And then you get to add those two kids, and they're going to have a very long, successful career, the two of them. And then you got a lot of other kids down in NXT, because that Trick Williams, whew, they got something in him. He's something else. I like a lot of things that they're doing down in NXT, and a lot of those kids are going to be coming up to the main roster. They're going to be making an impact really soon. Braun Breaker, I'm telling you, I'm calling it right now.
I know that Shawn Michaels sees a lot in them.
Are you sure? You sure he's not seeing something a lot in the wall?
I think he sees a lot. He sees them at different angles.
I don't know which joke's going to die first. The Shawn Michaels can see two people, or we can't see John Cena. No, neither. They're both tremendous.
Vince Neil likes food. I don't know.
Yeah?
I badly want to bring Cassius Ohno and Vince Neil to the Crazy Buffet. Just saying.
In fact, if I could take anybody to the Crazy Buffet, you and I both know it would be Braun Strowman and Otis, just because that would be the most impressive thing ever. I mean, we could sit here and joke about Cassius Ohno, yeah, and it's funny, and it'll never not be funny. But you know me, I want to see chaos, and that's exactly what's going to happen when Braun Strowman and Otis Dosevich walk into the Crazy Buffet with us and El Jefe.
It'll be worse than when Homer Simpson ate so many donuts that they ran out of donuts in hell.
It's going to be like Homer Simpson at the all-you-can-eat seafood buffet, and it was all-you-can-eat shrimp. But the sign says all-you-can-eat. And they're dragging him out of the restaurant after they closed.
Yep.
We drove around town for 7 hours looking for another all-you-can-eat seafood buffet. And did you go home? No, we went fishing.
It's the best $1.99 buffet in all of Las Vegas. Give me more of the yellow and don't go get cheap on me.
It's all you can eat. You only need one plate. And it sneezes on the nice broccoli. It sneezes on Is that chicken or is that beef? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. This is chicken and this is beef. Want them?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a classic. Let's see. Jay, you did mention earlier that there is another slot that they have kind of open for WrestleMania.
Yes.
I'm curious, with all the speculation that Steve Austin is going to be there, whether he helps out in the match or not. There has been speculation, because we talked about it last week, that Austin could be there. That John Cena has nothing better to do, nothing going on that weekend, so he could be at WrestleMania. I fully expect John Cena to be there next week. If I could put money on one person that's not on the main roster as a full-time participant to show up next week, it's John Cena.
Right.
Over anybody else. I'm sorry. But, they're going to be there. There's talks that The Undertaker was going to be there. We talked about it last week on the podcast. There's a chance that Hulk Hogan's going to be there next week, brother. I mean, you know me. Nobody's going to be happy.
Give him a live microphone, for the love of God, on night one. I've seen Hulk Hogan speak when he was in TNA. I went to Slammiversary. I was at the Slammiversary where Bully Ray went against Sting, and it was anything goes. In the end, Bully Ray and Sting tore the house down in the main event, but Hulk Hogan was there, brother. I think it was 2011, in Boston, Massachusetts, in the Songus Arena.
Well, that's what two goats do, Cousin Jay. They do goat things. Sting and Bubba Ray Dudley are both goats.
Yes.
Sting is the GOAT of WCW, and Bubba Ray Dudley is the GOAT of tag team wrestling. And Hulk Hogan is also a GOAT because he is the GOAT of getting the venue incorrect.
Brother.
I need Hulk Hogan to show up next week, call it Veterans Stadium, and then they pelt him with snowballs.
And then he goes and poses with the Rocky statue and tries to choke it out.
He tries to suplex it. Lights out, meatball! You couldn't believe it, brother. I was there, and the Rocky statue, it came to life. All 9,000 pounds of it, brother. And when it went and it grabbed me, I grabbed it, and I hooked it, and I lifted it up in the air, and I suplexed it onto the ground. And when I did it, I tore every ligament in my back, in my legs, in my arms, in my neck. But I
went to
statue.
Suplex City, brother.
And the statue ended up in New Zealand, brother. It was the most incredible thing that I've ever done, brother. And then the statue died 12 days later.
But I could see more Braun Strowman coming back and filling a role than Hulk Hogan doing that. As much fun as that would be, they should have Hogan do a live shot from the Rocky statue. And the rumored appearance of Sylvester Stallone that they said isn't happening does happen. And we end up getting Thunder Lips and Rocky Balboa with Vince Papale. They'll bring Mark Wahlberg in, and it'll be the greatest Philadelphia moment. And then they're going to bring in Nick Foles.
Oh, there you go.
And then Jason Kelce.
And Ryan Howard.
Yes.
Just not the one from The Office, the one that used to play for the Phillies. Eat fresh. Yeah. I honestly still want the Kelceys there. I am holding out hope. I want the Kelceys there. I want Hulk Hogan there, calling it the Veterans Stadium instead of the Link. I want Steve Austin's glass to break as he's about to lay him and The Rock are about to take each other out. I want Cena's music to hit and neutralize Solo. I want all of it. I want chaos. I want absolute chaos. But for the open spot out there, I'll take off my Red Sox and I'm going to put on the tinfoil hat, metaphorically. What if the open spot is for somebody else that we're not thinking or talking about? Somebody that I've actually mentioned possibly appearing in the main event, whether he helps Cody or confronts Cody after the match. He's got 3 initials. We have no idea what he's doing. He hasn't signed with WWE. He hasn't re-signed with AEW. I'm just saying,
allegedly.
The possibility, allegedly, one of the possibilities that the open spot, and they just called it an open spot, is for MJF. Because if you think about it, one of the biggest things with him is he likes the fact that AEW lets them cross the line a little bit. Not like MJF's going out there and bloodying himself up. I think maybe a couple times in his career MJF busted himself up, but he knows you don't need blood to sell wrestling. But the fact that they're getting a little bit more edgier with their promos, and the fact that the Netflix deal is right around the corner, and I think they mentioned it, that once they go to Netflix, none of this shit's gonna matter because they can say whatever the fuck they want. I can't wait for that. I want to hear fuck live in a WWE ring in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that the only time, other than like the times that, a wrestler botching your fuck, no, that doesn't count. I want the Christian Cage. I want the Christian Cage go fuck yourself said in a WWE ring in the worst possible way without being bleeped out, and I just want that. Give me what I want.
So tell me what you want, what you really want.
Don't tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna really, 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 really want. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying. They're saying an empty spot. They're throwing out Hogan, Austin, Undertaker, Cena. They're throwing all these names out. You can have all these people be a part of it. You can have Jason Kelsey be a part of it. You can bring in George Kittle for crying out loud.
I mean, Jason Kelsey makes the most sense.
No!
He did not get to retire in front of the Philadelphia fans. If he wants to get pelted with snowballs while drinking beer, nothing better than him to show up with Stone Cold Steve Austin and help out Stone Cold in the main event of WrestleMania. Drink beer, take his shirt off, and just be a maniac. It would be the perfect punctuation on the end of his career.
I want to see Donald Trump. And only for one reason and one reason only. I love chaos. And Donald Trump showing up at WrestleMania would be absolute chaos. Because no matter what Tony Khan does, no matter what Tony Khan says or how hard he tries, he will never, ever get a former president that can just show up like that. Hey, Pennsylvania, you let me down. You let Dan in there. You should have been Oz. You should have won the election. I forgive you, but you got to vote for Donald Trump in 2024 in November because voting for Joe Biden is not right. It is wrong. I need to be president. Vote for Donald Trump. Let's go, Steve Austin. Cody Rhodes, I hope you finish the story.
Our leaders should not have dementia. Don't vote for the brainless one. Don't vote for Sleepy Joe, who doesn't know if it's Friday or Pluto. He's the worst president of all time.
Joe Biden.
That would be the greatest. The only thing that would be greater is if it was RFK Jr. and Jesse Ventura. But they didn't do that. Vote for me. I'm the best ever. Thank you.
I'm the greatest president of all time. And Joe Biden would have been here, but by the time Joe Biden gets here, it's going to be WrestleMania 38.
It's going to be WrestleMania 70, and he's going to be 175 years old.
I mean, heart of hearts, the one person I want to see the most next weekend is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Donald Trump just would be funny as shit because I really don't think he's going to show up. It would be freaking hysterical, and I would love it, but he's not showing up.
There are a lot of things that make sense about Donald Trump showing up next weekend.
But Jay, this is what I want. They've been boasting this as the biggest WrestleMania ever. They're going to shove their dicks down Tony Khan's throat next week. They're bringing everybody. They're going to bring in Hogan because they can. They're going to bring in Austin because they can. They're bringing in Cena because they can. They got The Rock. Who does Tony Khan have? Rick Ross?
He's got Adam Edge. That's fine.
Adam Edge is a nice. I cannot say a bad thing about Adam Edge. I will never say a bad thing about Adam Edge. I'm just saying, WWE is going to shove it up AEW's ass. I'm telling you right now. They have a chance to just absolutely eviscerate Tony Khan to the point where I actually, my Brainless will come up in a little bit. It's going to be AEW related because that's why I'm mentioning it. But this is their chance. WWE has a chance to really, really Bury AEW. You bring out all your big stars, past and present. You have a very, very solid card as of right now. Very solid. I can't find a flaw other than Los Lotharios on that entire card. And Logan Paul is on it.
Yeah.
You have a chance here. You could bring in the Kelseys. You can bring in Donald Trump. You could bring in Taylor Swift. You can have The Weeknd perform a live performance of the WrestleMania theme song. God only knows that he does it every year now. Just like Florida does the theme song for SummerSlam every year.
Yeah.
And then CM Punk can influence the World Heavyweight Championship match that he could have been wrestling in. Jade Cargill could very well make her singles in-ring debut at WrestleMania. MJF could come out at the end of the show. You're going to have The Rock. You can have Austin, Undertaker. Bury them. I want it all. Give me everything, all the shit, because I want to know what that coked out freaking... why am I blanking on the dude's name? Herb Abrams. I don't need 2024 Herb Abrams all coked out of his mind trying to come up with some way to counteract WrestleMania when Taylor Swift, Donald Trump, and The Undertaker are all there.
She would need, or he would need, like Beyonce, Obama, and a couple other folks.
Cousin Jay, you and I both know that the only way, the only person that Tony Khan could possibly bring that would top any of that, all of that, I should say, not any of that, all of that, is if he brings in the one person that Eddie Harris questioned whether or not he could hit a curveball.
Jesus Christ.
That's the only person. Because if WWE brings in Super Bowl champion NFL players, the greatest pop, and just think, Bad Bunny could still be there.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think. I have not been this excited for WrestleMania in a long time. Have not. Last year's was a lot of fun, but then it ended in tragedy because the story kept going for another year, and I hope it doesn't keep going after this year. The story needs to be ended at WrestleMania next year. And 2 years ago, I was presented with a delightful match between, Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn. I love that match. I'm probably going to watch it again at some point soon because I just love that match. Absolutely.
And we got Stone Cold.
And we got Stone Cold, opening up one more can of whoop ass and shoving it down Captain Cupcake's throat, which was, I think, good for that week. Actually, no, it was Cody Rhodes' return. What am I kidding? That was mark out moment of the year.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing I will say about WrestleMania this year is I am super excited. The card looks strong. There's so many different avenues you can go with people. And the fact that they keep touting it as the greatest WrestleMania or the biggest WrestleMania of all time, especially after, what was it? It was the Royal Rumble was supposed to be the biggest Royal Rumble of all time, and it just turned into a wet fart.
Yeah.
Because everybody was upset because not everybody that they wanted to show up didn't show up.
Titus O'Neil showed up, and that was all that mattered.
They could have not had him in the match. They could have had, McAfee not in the match. They could have had Shawn Spears come out as number 10 because I would have popped. And apparently that was discussed. He was trying to get it in. They said, sorry, we're too far down the line in the production that it would just be, really? All you had to do was just take Ty Dillinger and put him in 10. Whoever was at 10, whoever it was, I don't remember. Put him in Pat McAfee's spot. You didn't need McAfee to go in there, shit his pants, and climb out and Drew carry himself from the Royal Rumble. But I have a lot of faith that this is going to be a monster WrestleMania. I am excited, and I cannot wait. I'm Bart Scott in the Jets jersey. Can't wait. Absolutely excited. Yeah.
Yeah. And as great as Monday Night Raw was, that was the one flaw. They made us excited about matches that aren't happening. or at least anytime soon,
Right.
happening.
I do. Jay, I don't remember the last time I enjoyed a Monday Night Raw as much as I did this past Monday.
Clearly, it's not the Monday Night Raw where Seth Rollins was talking to the Olive Garden waiter.
Yes. It's been a long time since Brock Lesnar showed up and told Hulk Hogan the party was over, Grandpa. It has been a long time. I have not enjoyed a Monday Night Raw like that. Jay, I remember the early years of the podcast, and you and I would have to struggle through 3 hours of Raw, and it was awful.
Awful.
I did not like. I breezed through the first hour and a half of Raw, and I was like, "Holy crap!" I'm like, I felt like it was 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Everything was quick and everything was precise. Everything was the way it was supposed to. I was entertained. Cody cut a great promo. That whole Punk, Rollins, and Drew thing was wonderful. I loved every second of that. PG, brother.
Who was it that called you the chosen one? Tell me his name. Tell me his name.
It was perfect. It was a great Monday Night Raw. I don't care what the ratings said. The AEW fans did a 1.75. Yeah, well, you guys haven't hit a million more than like 6 times if you're lucky. You guys only have that kind of numbers just because the Big Bang Theory people are like, ooh, what is this? And then they see Brandon Cutler come out to the ring.
QT Marshall.
Oh, God.
WWE superstar. You proved it.
The man had more gimmicks or more names in NXT than stables he was in AEW, and that says a lot because he was in 3 of them. I was like, this is a WWE star, is a guy who lost four matches in NXT. QT Marshall, WWE star.
WWE star.
Jesus Christ. Do you have any other notes there, Cousin Jay?
I have a couple of fun little tidbits.
Ooh, I like a couple of fun little tidbits.
The Undertaker explained his great disdain for cucumbers. Quite honestly, the tale sounded very similar to what we get from 17, 18-year-old who maybe had a night where they didn't understand their limits with alcohol, maybe had a little bit too much, whether it was tequila, rum, vodka, and then for many years later, they can't even smell the stuff without feeling sick to their stomach. Apparently, Undertaker, when he was a child, his mother was trying to make pickles. Had cucumbers that were with like sitting, waiting to get pickled. Undertaker ended up eating said pickles that were not quite ready yet, and everything that went down came back up.
Oh. That makes sense.
Undertaker has said, he's like, look, man, I understand when you go to a restaurant, people working hard, have a rough day. If I end up at a sushi place, and I will tell them, no cucumbers. And he said, if they bring out cucumbers, he is like, that'll be one of the things where I will, quote unquote, show my ass really quickly if cucumbers come out with my sushi.
That. I would just get rid of all the cucumbers in the world if the Undertaker asked me to.
Yeah. So that is why the Undertaker is not a big fan of cucumbers. And I get that.
He also came out and said that if anybody should have broken the streak, it should have been Bray Wyatt, which is what I said years ago. That they dropped the ball with that. Nothing against Brock Lesnar, because at the end of the day, who's stopping Brock Lesnar? And Brock Lesnar makes a lot of sense. But for Bray Wyatt at that time, he definitely could have benefited from the rub of beating The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And in the streak.
By the way, Brock Lesnar makes a lot of sense. Is somebody filling in a TBD opening in WrestleMania?
Especially if his picture on the back of the truck was seen from a distance. And that he's starting to get seen again. And we're not talking about the fact that it was the production truck that had the Austin and apparently John Cena's face on it, which was only there just for that shot, because the truck has, I think, Seth Rollins and Charlotte on it, or Rhea Ripley. Brock Lesnar's on the back of that truck.
Right.
He is not the Suplex City Voldemort quite yet. He's still Brock Lesnar.
Right. One thing I thought that you would enjoy, coming from a source that you would probably not expect, your favorite wrestler who has wrestled a blow-up doll and a very young Chinese girl came out this week and said, and I quote, 5-star matches shouldn't be handed out like candy. And also this week, that same performer said Kurt Angle is the most complete performer of all time. Kurt Angle I don't think has any 5-star matches.
He does not.
By the way, just throwing that out there, even though the man who has a 9.5 million star match in the Tokyo Dome against Okada is saying that somebody else is more complete than he is. So kudos to Kenny Omega for admitting that what we all knew. There are people better than him, and Dave Meltzer goes way too far.
He's full of shit. He's trying to make people. Is he out of his mind? Because without Meltzer, he's nothing. Him and the Bucks are nothing without Meltzer. God, it's gonna make me. You know what that gives me? Indigestion.
He's gonna puke.
Gives me indigestion. That's all that gives me.
All right. So another announcement is AEW's pay-per-views will now be on Triller TV, formerly Fight TV. They apparently had been having issues with Bleacher Report where, people would pay for the show and just either not be able to see it or not have a good connection. So they have decided for their next pay-per-view and going forward, they're going to go with Fight TV's former app, Triller TV, for their pay-per-views. If you listen to Tony Khan, it sounds like when they signed this next TV rights deal, it's going to make all the naysayers go away, and having a more solid streaming service like Triller TV, it could mean something. Arenas being half to 2/3 empty. WWE dealt with that for a while. If Tony Khan could get the money to keep AEW going without having to keep on, borrowing from daddy's billions, that is it possible that they could turn things around? Maybe Tony Khan could figure out how to book. I'm going to say that there's a 1 in a million chance.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Tony Khan and the whole peanut gallery to lose their everything. Something stupid's going to happen where a giant lawsuit's going to happen, and Shad Khan's going to be like, nah, I got to cut ties.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion. So
WWE Speed, I forget if it debuted or is going to debut shortly on X. But the matches originally were supposed to be 5 minutes or less. Now we're hearing that they're 3 minutes or less, and they're actually they've got a championship as part of this. I'm sorry, you cannot recreate the magic. The R-Truth brought
you
the 24/7 championship. Even if it was R-Truth, it would feel like a mockery, a chicanery, a clone, a lesser clone to the greatness that was the R-Truth. Multiple reigns as 24/7 champion, including when Jinder Mahal pinned him on the golf course.
In his wrestling garb.
Yes.
The pinning on the airplane when he's sleeping. That's the only person who can make it work. The only person who can make it work is R-Truth. I don't need to watch a bunch of wrestling matches for 3 minutes. If I want to watch a bunch of 3-minute wrestling matches for a bunch of people that are wrestling for a title, I'd go watch AEW's women's division.
Yeah.
I'd go watch the WWE women's division from when the Bella Twins were champions.
Yeah.
I don't need another 3-minute show. Like, really? Like, I heard that. I was like, this is fucking stupid. I'm sorry. I'm just. Some of the things they do make sense. What is a 3-minute wrestling match show with a champion going to do? What does that establish? That somebody could beat somebody in 3 minutes? Oh, there you go, Braun Strowman. There you go. That's how you determine who the first Speed champion is. You get James Ellsworth's chinless ass to get out there and cut a promo about any man with 2 hands has a fighting chance to become the Speed champion and win in 3 minutes or less. And then Braun Strowman's music hits so I can freaking pop like I did the time he fought James Ellsworth.
Yeah.
That's what I want. That's the only way you're going to get it over. And that's the only person that's going to be able to do it, because name me somebody else who could win in 3 minutes. Him and Brock Lesnar. That's it. Brock Lesnar ain't going to do speed. Actually, no, Brock Lesnar probably would want to do speed. Because if you think about it, there's nobody who wants to get the fuck out of the arena faster than Brock Lesnar. 3-minute matches? Sign me up.
I think Tony Khan would be on board with that, actually.
All
right. So the dastardly Voldemort sold another 3 million shares of TKO stock this week. For anybody who believes he may come back at some point, you're gravely mistaken.
Chris Benoit has a better chance of seeing Vince McMahon in hell than we do of seeing Vince McMahon in the WWE arena.
True.
And that's where they both belong. Still very devastated that Diddy fled the country. And
Yeah.
Vince
WrestleMania performer. What was it? WrestleMania 29?
I think so.
That was the New York one, right?
In New York. Yes, that's where.
I'm coming home. I'm coming home.
Yes, Cousin Jay. That was the WrestleMania where Fandango beat Chris Jericho at MetLife Stadium.
And Brock Lesnar lost to Triple H.
And John Cena beat The Rock for the title.
Ugh.
In order of how pissed off I was for the outcomes. Jericho losing was the most pissed off. Triple H winning was the second most pissed off. And John Cena beating The Rock for the title was the third most pissed off. Nothing pissed me off more than Chris Jericho losing to fucking dancing dipshit.
No. Fandango.
It was a hell of a build-up, though. I got to give him that. But that's because Chris Jericho could build up with anybody and anything.
Yeah. And one last thing on my notes. Mustafa Ali, TNA X Division champion, does not have a contract with the company.
I don't think that whoever runs Impact TNA knows what the hell they're doing. Well, they have, to be fair, Cousin Jay, they have to save a roster spot for when Bobby Fish comes back and gets when he gets no reaction again, so that he can fight.
That beat Abraham Lincoln, that trained Simon Gotch,
and that's exactly what it is.
Frank Gotch, and fought against Kane, the original Kane,
and Abel.
Yeah.
And he was the one that helped Noah load up the Ark.
Yes.
He was the fourth person off the Mayflower at Plymouth Rock.
Yes.
He had a pet Stegosaurus.
Yes.
He was there when Ric Flair called dirt the first time.
Yes.
He hung out with Joe Louis.
He did. Right in that barber seat.
Yes, he did.
When Frank Sinatra talked with them in Queens.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's weird. I did not know that Mustafa Ali's contract was up, or didn't have a contract with Impact.
Does not have a contract with Impact.
Well, they'll probably get him more. Who knows? Who the frick knows? I don't think they even know what the hell they're doing. Is Dixie Carter running shit again at TNA? Is Hulk Hogan there meddling? Is that what Eric Bischoff's podcast is ending? So he can go back to work in Impact so they can destroy that once again, him, Dixie Carter, and Hulk Hogan?
By the way, he started a new podcast. That was one of the greatest troll jobs this week. Not greater than Drew McIntyre, but...
Yeah. Drew's just absolutely killing 2024. Let's be serious. He's doing his best work right now. I've enjoyed the hell out of him.
Yeah.
He wore the 2 shirts.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such good shit.
All right. That's about all I got, Brainless One.
Well, you know me, I got one more thing.
Yeah?
Now, I know earlier that we were talking about how Ridge Holland, whether it was kayfabe or if it's some real shit, cut his promo about retiring on Tuesday. And I was hoping that it wasn't a work and it was actually a shoot and he was actually retiring. So what I did was I put together, now that he's retired, the top 10 people who need to retire from professional wrestling now that Ridge Holland has retired. Or not even professional wrestling, just need to retire.
Okay.
Because I forgot who 9 and 10 are.
Yeah?
Number 10, all of U.S. Congress.
True.
Basically, anybody under the age of 900 needs to retire. So McConnell needs to retire. Pelosi needs to retire.
Schumer
needs to retire. Definitely McConnell. The man who said, I'm no longer going to be the lead, but I'm not going to retire. Okay, Mitch.
I am no longer going to lead the Republican Party in the Senate. And that's him speaking fast. Cocaine Mitch.
Is that the worst? Number 9, Joe Biden. Just needs to retire. I'm sorry.
Yes. Dementia sucks.
Yes, it very much does. Like I said, I'm rewatching it again like I watched my grandfather.
Joe Biden, if you're watching, today is Friday. We are not on Pluto. Friday.
Now that the fact that he's number 9 and there's 8 other people who need to retire before Joe Biden, this has got to be a great list.
Yes.
Number 8, Ronda Rousey. Don't ever want to see her in a wrestling ring ever again. Number 7, Kenny Omega. It's funny you mentioned him. I want to see Kenny Omega retire more than I want to see Joe Biden retire. So take that for what it's worth.
All right.
Number 6, speaking of people who really need to retire, the Big Slow.
Does that include Captain Insano?
Yeah, it includes Captain Insano as well. Number 5. This one actually hurt. Matt Hardy.
He has been offered an extension by Tony Khan in AEW.
Because of
free money. Thank you. Thank Papa Khan.
Thank you. I love this. Thanks, guys. What a great announcement of the Hardy Boys returning.
And shit, man.
Number 4, the Cryback. Don't need to see him anymore. Speaking of people I don't need to see anymore ever again in a wrestling ring. Number 3, Goldberg. Just retire, dude. You're just a grumpy, miserable fuck who's crying because you want a freaking retirement match when technically your last match, which should have been your retirement match, was a match you wrestled against the Universal Champion.
Oh, by the way, he stepped away from the pro wrestling business for over a decade. He came back and was treated like absolute gold in WWE and given like a lot of super high profile matches.
Yep.
I still stand by. I absolutely love Goldberg and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 33. One of my favorite WrestleMania matches.
That whole streak with
Goldberg. Big beefy dudes beating the shit out of each other.
That streak when he first got to WCW, that was must-watch TV. As somebody who grew up a huge WWE fan for 35, almost 36 years now, I was glued to the TV every Monday on Nitro when Goldberg was out there. Every time. I did not go to bed until Goldberg wrestled.
Yeah.
So take that for what it's worth with Goldberg. But I still want to see him retire right now. Number 2, I mean, I mentioned his brother earlier, but this person really needs to retire. I'd rather see Matt keep going and have Jeff Hardy at number 2 retire.
Yeah.
So that's 2 through 10, Cousin Jay. Would you care to venture a guess at who is the one person in professional wrestling or otherwise, hint more so on the professional wrestling, that the Brainless one would love nothing more than to finally see them retire?
I think there are 3 possibilities. I gotta go with the Young Bucks because the fact that Kenny Omega is out with diverticulitis and may be forced to retire. I'm gonna say that you want the Bucks to be retired more than Joe Biden, more than Matt Hardy, more than Jeff Harvey, more than them all.
Jay, I don't want them to retire. I just want them to spontaneously combust one day and not exist. That's what I want from the Bucks. I don't want them to retire. I just don't want them on this planet anymore. If they need to send 2 test subjects on a ship to Mars to see if the ship can make it and all that stuff, send the Bucks. If we could write like a 1,000,000-word essay of why certain people should be the first ones to go to the moon, or not the moon, to Mars or Jupiter or Pluto.
We landed on the moon.
You know, I'd write 1,000,000 words and explain why the Young Bucks would be the perfectest thing, because they could go to Mars, and if there's any Martians, they'll just super kick them. Whether the ship, or whether the ship combusts or heads and lands in the sun, I wouldn't really shed a tear. But, I mean, it's worth a shot. I mean, the Bucks would be the perfect 2 people to send up to Mars. Because even if they don't come back, nobody's going to miss them. So I don't want them to retire. I just don't want them to exist anymore.
Okay.
So who is your other guess?
I mean, Kenny Omega.
Kenny Omega was number 7.
Oh,
You're thinking way too hard. I thought I
yeah.
gave it away when I said finally retire.
I mean, Ric Flair.
He is the
I mean,
one
clearly
person
we're not talking about Bobby Fish. Bobby Fish
can still
needs
go.
to never retire. He's been wrestling since
The dawn of
year
time.
1. Literally year 1.
The dawn of time.
Yes.
Bobby Fish was around since the dawn of time.
When he went against a raptor. Nobody has seen anything like it before or since.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I've been saying it before. I'll say it again. Ric Flair retired in, what was it, 2008?
2008, WrestleMania 24.
That was 16 years ago. He retired 16 years ago. Why he's still going after having a pacemaker put in, after nearly dying on an operator table? Why? No. Retire, Rick. I don't need to see you in the ring ever again. Please just stop.
Just plug it back in, man. Plug it back in. It's fine. Donnie Brown Snow said EVPs. Super Kick Party. And he said Jericho needs to retire. And Chris Brown said it's a shock that Flair's pacemaker hasn't exploded yet. That's true. If you want to talk about the hardest working thing in all of entertainment, it's Ric Flair's pacemaker that got plugged in and out a couple times during his final match. I mean, the dude fell asleep twice. He was so bored with the match. Andrade doing all he can with Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett.
The man who drew $30 in his career.
Yes. But, those couple times where Ric Flair had to plug back in the pacemaker, I mean, I want to see him and Triple H, I think, in a match.
I don't.
Loser leaves Earth.
Good.
That would be the match.
Then I would want to be in the match with the Young Bucks where the loser leaves Earth and I win.
Yes.
I don't even need a tag team partner. I could beat the shit out of those two fucks.
Donnie Brown Snow, seeing Flair throw a chop in AEW was slow and sad. That whole thing was amongst the worst things I've ever seen. I
was talking about years ago when he was throwing the chops at Abyss and they looked like shit. And that was like a decade ago.
Yeah.
It's going to be much worse in 2024. He's awful.
I mean, what we saw with him in the Bucks all those weeks ago with the nut shot and the worst.
That's why I don't watch the worst. That's why I don't watch this shit. Because I don't need to see the flippy dipshits and freaking 9 million-year-old Ric Flair, the only wrestler that's actually older than Bobby Fish in the entire industry. Don't need to see it.
Are we sure? Has that been verified? Have we seen his birth certificate that his mom, Eve, signed all those years ago with a Stegosaurus as the witness?
Yeah?
I mean, we have to verify these very important facts.
I need to find, we got to find actual evidence of Ric Flair appearing before 1620. Because we've seen the information with Bobby Fish and wrestling Abraham Lincoln. We've seen an actual post with Bobby Fish's name attached to it against Abraham Lincoln. We've seen
the hieroglyphs in Egypt of the fish.
We've also seen.
We know who that's speaking of. That's not speaking of Jewish people. That is speaking specifically of Bobby Fish.
And I'm telling you right now, there was a picture when they landed on the Mayflower landed at Plymouth Rock. There's a picture of Bobby Fish getting off the boat. Yeah. All we need is anything in that time period or before with Ric Flair. I'll see if I can find it. That'll be my one of my projects. I will find the history of Ric Flair to prove that he is older than Bobby Fish.
I mean, we have that picture of Captain Andrew Luck with Bobby Fish from back during the Civil War. I'm wondering if we got like Ric Flair with the long flowing hair and the beard. And you know, maybe back then it was Major Flair and General Fish.
I'm certain we're going to find out that Ric Flair was the only person that was on the Pinta, the Nina, and the Santa Maria.
Possibly.
That's the only thing I can think of that could beat it. You have to have been around with Christopher Columbus in 1492.
Don't Eat Brown Snow says Bobby Fish is the fish that evolved into a human being. So, I mean, you're talking perhaps maybe Bobby Fish is just a moniker and maybe his real name is Adam.
Wait, what if Bobby Fish is like me, whereas my name is the Brainless One and I live the gimmick every day? It's not just a gimmick, it's a lifestyle. Maybe that's the same thing with Bobby Fish. His name is Bobby Fish, so maybe that's not just his gimmick, it's his lifestyle.
Yeah.
And he can sing the Gay Fish song with Kanye West.
You just never know.
Yes. Or Yee, whatever he's calling himself. Yee.
All right. Brainless One, do you have anything else left on your notes?
I have nothing else left, Cousin Jay. What about you, sir?
No, I think we're ready to rock and roll with our good, our bad.
And our Red Sox are 1-0.
Yeah?
Yeah? All right, Cousin Jay, what do you got for your good this week?
As much as I try to be very definitive about the things that I like, and it'd be like a specific segment or a specific line, I just have to say Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw this week was outstanding from beginning to end. There were minor lulls in it, but holy shit. If you want to talk about me getting hyped for WrestleMania, even though they got me hyped for matches that aren't happening at WrestleMania, we're going to see interaction with those people that were in those promos at night 1 and or night 2 of the show of shows. Monday Night Raw was awesome. It was the antithesis of Baron Corbin as the Raw general manager.
Yes. I'm sorry, I was looking on here. Now, I have this all the way back to, what are we on? Episode 3 something, right?
353.
353. So I'm all the way back to episode 311, which was, wow, I've had this book for a year now. Pretty much a year ago. Where's my math?
Yeah.
Hold on, wait. Gotta take into consideration my Bristol Eastern education. Next month will be 1 year since I started Brainless Thoughts 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 42 episodes in that time period, it's not on there. And I wanted to pick something else. But I can guarantee you this. This is the first time these words have ever been uttered from my mouth on the history of this podcast. My good for this week was also Monday Night Raw.
Mm.
I don't even.
Brown in the chat said his good tied between Dwayne's beatdown of Cody and Bischoff's Twitter fight with Coked Out Khan, starting at 4 this morning.
Tony Khan is Herb Abrams with an unlimited supply of money and coke.
Don't Eat Brown Snow said his good is the Young Bucks. Yeah.
What do you got for your bad this week? Since we're talking about coked out Tony Khan.
You know, certainly his feud with Bischoff this week was childish. And that had a lot of consideration for not only but Brainless this week. I went in a different direction, though. A man that I have a great respect for and affection for his time in the squared circle, D'Lo Brown, did an interview this week and talked about how he does not see Cody Rhodes as a top-tier, upper echelon performer.
Not sure. Serious.
He was serious.
He is serious, and don't call me Shirley.
So I've got a lot of respect for D'Lo, but I do not agree with that opinion. Cody Rhodes is doing things differently than just about any WWE superstar, whether it's randomly saying yes to a dude of being his best man, showing up at a five-year-old's birthday party. Nobody has done it like this. He is a very good performer in the ring. He is a solid performer on the microphone, and he wants to tell stories. And D'Lo Brown saying, I don't see him as that top tier guy, even though he admits the WWE pushes him as that. Cody is winning over the folks in different ways than what was done before.
Yep.
I think D'Lo is off base by saying Cody is not upper echelon.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he could be playing kayfabe because he was once affiliated with The Rock, and he's got to have, his loyalties have to stand with the Nation of Domination. So I might give him the benefit of the doubt for that. Otherwise, I agree. He's totally off base, and he shouldn't be saying this because it's stupid. Because Cody Rhodes is the biggest babyface in professional wrestling right now, and justifiably and well deserving.
Yeah. Chris Brown saying his bad is Jade Cargill always speaking for 30 seconds, half hour ago, and doing nothing with it. And saying in the chat, Ray and Dominic in the tag match at Mania. Donnie Brown Snow, his bad is Tony Khan on Twitter whenever he is talking on the mic. Yeah.
I'm going with the women's match on Dynamite this week. What did you have, like a fatal four-way, six-pack challenge, some kind of whatever it was? I don't know what it was. But they had Sasha Banks, who is now the highest-paid woman in professional wrestling, who is known for her in-ring ability, has not wrestled for AEW. But you put her on commentary in a new company with a writer from WWE as her main source of writing. It just did not feel right. And nobody really cares about the women who are in this match because they cared about Sasha Banks. And what you did was you put her on commentary, which is not her strong point. And all you guys are doing is wasting her. And it's only going to be a matter of time before you piss her off. And then we're having this conversation once again with her and walking out of a wrestling promotion.
Right.
So I'm giving that my bad for this week because it did absolutely nothing for nobody because we already know that Julia Hart's going to beat whoever it was who won. I don't watch it. I prefer not to watch it. I have better ways to ruin my brain cells, like running my head into a wall than watching Dynamite.
Yeah.
So, but that's my bad for this week.
All right.
What is your brainless?
My brainless, once again, is going to TNA. And it's more or less for the same reason as I was talking about last week. You have performers on a per appearance fee.
Yeah.
done all this good stuff to build up the roster, to build up the reputation of this organization that was so many times close to dying. You now have an extremely talented man who is not even under an AEW contract
TNA.
holding one of your titles. There is absolutely nothing stopping that man from just saying, I'm done. I'm not defending this again. How do you build a long-term, strong company by offering people a bunch of either short-term deals or per appearance deals? How can anybody get behind anybody? And in this case specifically, you put a title on somebody who isn't signed for the long term, who has no vested interest in this company. He has a vested interest in himself, but not necessarily the company.
Yep.
Would it be stupid if he decided to take his ball and go home? Sure. But there's still nothing stopping him from doing that. The fact that TNA put one of their prominent titles on somebody who you don't know if they're going to be there next week is just a bad, and brainless idea.
Yep.
All power to Mustafa Ali for being the X Division champion and going out there and trying to make a bigger name for himself than he had. Good for him. It's bad business.
Oh, big time.
For the company that owns TNA.
Agreed.
Yeah?
Well, my brainless this week, once again, because I'm sure I can flip through this stupid thing and I'm sure I can find it. I'm sure if I went into the old notebook, I would find the notes that said the same thing. But once again, my brainless this week goes to AEW fans. Because it's my second favorite thing to give a bad or brainless to after the Young Bucks.
And Tony Khan.
And, well, yes, and Tony Khan, AEW as a whole. Anytime I can mention AEW in a negative light, you know that I'm all over this. So, CM Punk on Instagram after the show on Monday in Chicago posted the stuff and was trolling AEW fans by saying 85,000 turnstile, it was the greatest, all this stuff, just totally trolling them. So somebody had posted and said, CM Punk can't live without mentioning AEW. They must live rent-free in his head. So I went out and commented and said, they just like WWE lives rent-free in Tony Khan's head. And one of these dipshits, and he wrote some really nasty stuff to somebody else in the thread on Facebook. I took I wrote and just I don't play with AEW fans. I don't play well with them. I just don't. I can't do it.
Yeah.
He came out and said, how could you say Tony Khan has WWE living rent-free in his head? I said, okay, I can understand that. He's just a wrestling fan who is mentioning WWE. A wrestling fan. So Tony Khan is allowed to have his wrestlers cut promos, constantly mention, have Cody Rhodes and Jim Cornette, being, cheered. All this stuff, it's okay because he was a fan. So what you're saying is if I open a wrestling promotion, okay, and because I'm a wrestling fan, and I had, billions of dollars like Shad Khan money, and I'm going up against WWE, who I've said is my nemesis now, because now I'm in, once the lawsuit, once the tampering charges were thrown out there, all bets were off. You're not supposed to be throwing those names out there. It makes you look desperate. Same thing with like when we got with the one page on Facebook. That on one episode of Collision, they mentioned 10 former WWE superstars on the show. 10. Doesn't make it any better. Tony Khan, Triple H, Nick Khan, Tony's long-lost cousin, WWE, Vince McMahon, they all live rent-free in his head. They're all doing coke up in his head, too, because there's so much coke up there that they're living rent-free, so they get free coke, too. I'm sorry. It's getting to the point now that with some of these fans of AEW, especially the fans of the Elite, they're getting to be just as bad, if not worse, than Yankee fans, Cowboy fans, and LeBron James nut huggers.
How about Eagle fans?
Oh, God, there's nothing worse than this entire planet than an Eagles fan. Come on, Jay. They threw snowballs at Santa Claus. But, again,
I'm looking forward to that happening again in just over a week.
If they throw snowballs at Mick Foley dressed up as Santa Claus, I'm driving up to Philadelphia and beating the shit out of all of them. I'll fight all the Eagles.
Santa or Xanta? Yeah,
Santa Claus. Oh, Santa Claus is dead. And cross them off. Anyway, if you like what you see, whether you are a first-time watcher or a continuous fan, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on the X Twitters, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E. Thank you. Now I can spell it. No, there it is right in the top. The letter F, the letter N, M-A-R-K-S, the F in Marks. If you like, follow and subscribe to us, we will do the same back. That has always been our
mantra. And make sure you set up notifications so that when we are live, you will be notified when we are live, whether it's on the X, whether it's on the Facebook. And oh, by the way, we are live on the Facebooks, not only on the F and Marks page, but also on dirtsheets.net.
Yeah.
And also on the YouTubes. But set up those notifications so that when we are live, you will be notified that we are live so you can join in and talk about our favorite sport that we all love to hate, professional wrestling.
The New York Jets.
Yeah, exactly. And set up those, subscribe to us on Spotify so you can take the show on the road with you as you're traveling, as you're on your way, traveling to the city of brotherly love. You could listen to this show and put it on repeat, enjoy it over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And before we do our WrestleMania prediction show, which will be next Friday, and our hope would be to get F and Marks Hall of Famer El Jefe on board next week, and we'll let you know.
Yeah.
All of that as we go forward.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah, definitely it. We have absolutely nothing else to talk about, nothing else to cover, because as we always do, we cover everything. Nothing is ever missed.
Ever. Again. Damn right.
Wait.
Curtis Axel. Brainless one. Take it away, my friend. Thank you, sir. Well, Cousin Jay, Brainless one, and the fans of the F and Marks, it is that time to close the show. And the only way to do it is by the right way of doing it. And what way is that, Curtis Axel? That's because today, which is March 29th of 2024, at an astonishing 3,351 days, I, F and Marks Hall of Famer, is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble. For episode 353 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the F and Marks,
I'm Jay. He is.
I am the Brainless one. Make sure you mark out.
With your guac out. See you, everybody.
Thanks
Enjoy
for tuning in.
SmackDown. Enjoy Raw. We will see you next week before WrestleMania. Yeah.
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 Yeah.